When I was 15 years old, when I got this job, I said to myself, I am going to work here until the day that I kill myself. And, hello, I'm still here, so I must be happy, right? I had me a vision. There wasn't any television. From looking into the
How's it going, everybody? I'm Shaun.
I'm Sarah.
And you're listening to my Future Husband FaceFuck Podcast, episode 14.
Woohoo!
14 episodes. That's 7 times 2.
7 plus 7.
And 7 plus 7. So there you go. Math.
13 plus 1.
Yeah. Also true.
I hope so.
21 minus 7 was 14.
Oh my.
Yeah. Pretty wild stuff. Pretty wild stuff. So, Sarah.
So, Shaun.
What have you been doing?
Not much.
What have you been
Working.
perusing?
Oh, what have I been perusing? Well, we were watching The Long Island Medium.
Yes. We watched
on Netflix.
a bunch of The Long Island Medium, or Long Island Medium. It's actually not The Long Island Medium. It's just Long Island Medium.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
Adding articles.
Which you gotta give
things.
her. You gotta give her credit because she's not saying that she is the de facto medium of Long Island. She's just one of them.
Yeah, I would like to see some of these other ones if she's like the standard for them.
Well, I always have the stuff like that on those kind of shows. It's like, well, I'm also a medium, but I don't know if she really is. Like, and they've had a couple episodes where people were like that. Yeah, it's just kind of silly. I don't know. I wrote a really, really long, like, rambling thing about it.
On the blog.
On the blog here. If you'd like to read that. Just because that's the thing about that. It's like everything spiderwebs out. Like, as soon as you, like, start picking apart one thing, it, like, spirals into a different, like... Issue, or just... It's very nitpicky.
Yeah.
But how can you not be, I suppose, when you're really talking about things that are like this? Of that nature, like speaking to the dead and bringing messages from people's lost loved ones, and like,
yeah,
it should be held under like an intense amount of scrutiny, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it is kind of funny. You and I heard about her actually before the show was available on Netflix through these like people debunking
her, because we
mediums and psychics.
Yeah, I wrote about this in that article I wrote. Is that like the reason I stumbled across her was because we saw the movie The Conjuring. And then when I see a movie or something, and I've always been I just find, like, that stuff fascinating, like paranormal and occult stuff. More now that I'm older, more from, like, a sociological perspective than, like, an actual believing it perspective. When I was a kid, I was kind of on the fence, and I just, like, consumed a lot of information about that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so we were just watching, like, videos with occultists and demonologists and shit like that.
Psychics.
And somehow we stumbled onto a YouTube page, I believe it's called Sci-Fi Fake or Sci-Fake or something
like that.
Yeah. And the guy just trying to debunk her by using, like, footage from her daytime talk show appearances and whatnot.
Yeah. And then we stumbled on the show the other day, so we're like, why not? Teresa Caputo.
Caputo, yes.
Yeah, not Caputo. I said Caputo.
No, it's Caputo, ladies and gentlemen.
She will correct you on that.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. If you're Jay Leno, she probably won't.
She didn't.
Well, she said it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Tomato, tomato.
Yeah.
I'm still a medium.
Because ghosts don't care.
But they do wait in line, it seems like.
Yeah, if it's at a group reading, yeah. Sometimes ghosts are rude and they step in front of other ghosts. That was one of the clips we watched.
Yeah.
Was that, like, she was, like, going through a cold reading process and, like, she was asking... This is not from the show. This is from just, like, a clip on YouTube. I think it was, like, Dr. Oz or one of those, like, daytime talk shows. And so she was going through a cold reading process with this woman in the audience, and she was, like, hitting the wrong things. Like, she was right up to a point, and then it started, like...
Being completely
wrong. So what she did was, she found somebody else in the audience that was more...
It fit
better, and then said, oh, your father or your asshole ghost relative must have, like, stepped in front of this other ghost.
Silence the other ghost.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, there's no, like, rules. There's no process. Like, it is completely predicated on whatever her client needs it to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's not like there's, like, harsh realities or anything like that are brought up, or, I don't know. Like, so there's no fail state, almost. She can't fail.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's, like, no... I've never seen, whether it's clips or it was, the television show where, like, a ghost just didn't show up.
Right. There's always someone speaking to her.
Yeah. Like, I just have a hard time believing, like, say, like, hypothetically, like, ghosts are real and all that stuff. Like, I have a hard time believing ghosts are just fucking, like, milling about, like, their old, like, their family's homestead and stuff, trying to get messages out to them. And then beyond that, it's like some of these people only have, like, tertiary, they're not their family. Like, they'll be their friends. Or their sister. Like, why isn't she haunting the parents? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I don't...
The friend ones are my favorite, because she always, like, I just see, like, my favorite one, she was like, I see someone pouring drinks. And it was these, like, kind of bro-y guys.
Yeah, like, wearing, like, affliction t-shirts. Like, middle-aged men. Very, like, probably from New Jersey.
Who high-five and go get drinks after the reading.
After the reading, yeah. 'Cause she made a believer out of him.
Yeah.
So that's, like, the thing about that. It's just, like, and also, it's just, like, there's no... I mean, she's obviously... There's a talent in being able to read people and do that stuff, like cold readings, as a trick.
Yeah,
like,
I wouldn't be very good at it.
There's a talent in that. There definitely is. Because you're constantly pulling information out of people, thinking that you're... making them think that you're telling them things that they're actually telling you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and she does this other thing, which she's the only person I've ever seen do this, which she's constantly asking them to validate. Validate the information. This is here. So she'll say something, that's your father, asking for validation. Do you validate? Do you validate? Do you validate? So it's like this idea of, like, you are actually doing all the work, like, psychologically on yourself. She doesn't have to do anything. It's like the power of suggestion. She just suggests it, and then you kind of make it up in your head, basically.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. But the thing about her is that it's very transparent. Like, it feels like when you watch her, it really does look like a parlor trick.
It is, though.
No, I know it is.
Yeah.
I know it is. But, like, some people I think are probably better, like, not as rough around the edges, maybe, or not as, like, obvious about it.
Yeah.
She's very obvious about it, like, at least to my, like, knowledge and my experience of watching these other mediums, quote-unquote, and stuff like that, and the way they go about it.
Like the guy who did on Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan show.
Yeah, that guy was fucking amazing. And he was like, this is all bullshit.
Yeah. He's like, my friends Penn and Teller taught me some things.
Yeah, actually, I think he's on an episode of Penn and Teller's Bullshit where they talk about mediums.
Probably.
Which you can find most of those episodes on YouTube, by the way.
I recommend them.
And it's a really great show. I mean, if you're a super liberal or whatever, you might find it pretty frustrating, actually, because they're pretty middle road, like, with their politics and beliefs. Which that's kind of why I like them, because they're probably more aligned with the way I think about things. They have a very broad perspective, I guess. And they don't toe lines, so I appreciate that.
Fuck the narrow-minded.
Fuck the narrow-minded, yo. Politics are for politicians, people. Anyways, let me get off the soapbox.
Yeah.
It's getting cold up here.
It is pretty cold.
Yeah, so, like, I just don't, like, it's so clear, and especially at this point in history, and even, like, the past, like, 20 years of, like, having a lot of, like John Edward and Sylvia Brown, and...
Oh, Sylvia Brown used to be one of my favorites.
She's hilarious. She's really funny because she's so fucking, like, mean.
Yeah.
She's just seems like a really miserable person.
Yeah, with her sweet nails.
Yeah, I don't know. So, like...
I guess that's another requirement to be a medium. You need sweet, like, long, fake nails.
I guess so, yeah. You gotta be a kind of an eccentric person to go about that in the first place. But, like, just, like, how do people still buy into it? Like, how do people still, like, to this day, like, I guess that show, Long Island Medium, is very popular.
Is it?
Yeah, which is weird, because it's not even that entertaining as a television show. It's kind of boring.
Yeah, it is kind of boring.
Yeah.
Her family life's kind of boring.
Which is, I guess, the point.
Her husband's my favorite.
Oh my god, he's, like, such a pushover.
My favorite, though, was, like, so there was this one episode where she works from home, and she was doing a reading in the kitchen, and he came downstairs in the middle of the reading, and started getting, like, ice from the ice dispenser.
So what she does is, she leaves her reading where her paying customer is like, I can't handle this. Like,
and he was like, I was thirsty. I just wanted some water.
It's my house. If I want to get some water, I'll get some water. All right.
And she's like, well, I was supportive that you sold your business. Now you support me in my business.
It's kind of silly.
Yeah.
Because, like, and then, like, that show is super overproduced, too, because there's tons of, like, comically leading music. You know, like, they'll have him, like, when he was coming downstairs to get the water and he has to walk through, like, the living room where she's doing the reading, it's like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, like, kind of music.
Yeah.
Like, uh-oh.
Uh-oh, what's he gonna...
Wacky hijinks.
What's Larry gonna do now?
Wacky hijinks about to ensue.
Yeah. Or like when she went to the bagel shop, did her reading on the bagel shop lady, and then asked if she could hire the husband to get him out of the house.
She reminds me of a lot of people that I grew up around, as far as like just her affectation, just the way she kind of acts, and her voice and stuff like that. It like reminds me of like kind of like my aunt when she was younger, to a certain degree. But I don't know. I find her. I think that stuff is like borderline evil. And I don't really believe in evil, per se. I think context is everything. But, like, I don't know. How do you justify that? How do you justify, like, preying on the weak and vulnerable? And not only that, but never allowing them to really go through the grieving process or move on.
Right.
Because not only does she give them these messages, but they say, they'll always be here. And they're always with you, watching you. And they're in the house, so you can just talk to them. So it doesn't let you ever let go.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you just have to come to it and you have to accept at a certain point that, like, because, you know, when you lose somebody, you're fucking, you can't even process it. Like, your brain, when you lose somebody very close to you, like a family member or something, like, you can't process it. And you kind of live in a state of confusion for about a week. And then even up to, like, the point where you may go, like, to the funeral and you bury them. Even then, it's like a very surreal process. And because your brain doesn't know how to accept the fact that this person will never exist again. I will never speak to them. Like, it's weird. It's like, so it's, and that's, but what happens if you can't ever, like, let go of that? And at worst, sometimes it'll be, like, years after, like, somebody's passed away, and she'll redo it again. Like, 6 years later, they've probably moved on with their lives, and then she's bringing them right back to that moment of, like, of confusion. Because there's a confusing moment, like, especially the first few days after somebody passes away, that, like, you don't even acknowledge it, or you don't believe it.
Yeah.
You still feel like there's a chance that it's not true, even though it, you know, it obviously is. But, like, your brain doesn't allow you to think that. Like, it's weird. It's like all your psychological, like, walls are going up to, like, protect yourself. It's very like, odd experience. I recommend it.
Oh my god!
I recommend it. Yeah, it's a great ride in Disneyland.
Oh Jesus!
The grieving process. People just poke you and shock you.
You just get angry for a little bit, and then you get really sad. But
at the end of the ride, you get ice cream though, so it's pretty good.
Sweet.
That's the best thing that came out of when my dad passed away. We had tons of, like, weird food in the house because everybody brings you food.
Yeah.
Everybody brings food over. Like, we end up throwing, like, 90% of it away.
Yeah.
Because nobody's eating.
Yeah, because everybody's depressed. Yeah.
But anyway, it was funny. Except for my extended family. Like, they're stuffing their faces, so at least somebody got something. But, like...
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah. That is pretty funny. Like,
but she keeps people there, and I think that... And having gone through that, like, process, like, just a few years ago... And you deal with it every day, to a certain extent. But, like, it just made me feel like, oh, you're keeping people feeling that way. Because I had, like, first-hand experience with, like, what that actually feels like. And I was like, that's terrible. That's such a fucking horrible thing to do to another human being.
It is.
And, yeah.
Or, like, even acknowledging, like, telling them constantly, like, when this happens, that is a sign that your so-and-so is giving you a hug. And, like...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when your daughter gives you a hug out of nowhere and tells you...
That's your mother.
That's like, no, that's your sister. That's what that episode
was.
I
thought it was mother.
No, the worst one I saw, and I think I talked about it in the article I wrote, I can't remember, but, like, there was a woman had given birth to, like, a premature baby, like, you know, it was like a month or whatever premature. Mm-hmm. and the baby died, like, after 3 weeks. So maybe it was, like, 3 months premature.
Yeah.
The baby passed away. So, Teresa Caputo doesn't know that when she goes in there and asking about who lost the young man. She just goes after whoever the first person that responds. Because it's a room full of people. There's, like, 15 people
it's like
there.
a group reading.
So, statistically, if you say who lost the young man, somebody's going to raise their hand. There was probably a few people there that applied to. But this is the first person that, like, acknowledged it and responded. Yeah. So she goes after them. And then, as you find out more information about it, like, Teresa Caputo has to, like, change her narrative up a little bit to justify the fact that a premature baby is speaking.
Yeah.
To the mother, telling her that it's okay.
And her spirit grew.
His spirit is growing like a normal child, and he's about 7 years old.
Yeah.
I was like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
I was like, I was dumbfounded somebody would actually even say that to a person.
Yeah.
Especially that person. And it just, like, going back to what I said before about that perpetual state of, like, confusion and stuff, you're fucking with that person even more.
Because they're all child,
all the child, all the, like, unfair guilt that they put on themselves because of that. You're giving them this weird hope that this child is living a normal ghost existence or something. I don't know, like... Just kind of disgusting.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little gross. A little gross.
Yeah, I agree. It's a little weird.
Yeah, I don't like Teresa Caputo.
Caputo.
I do not enjoy her.
I love her voice, though.
And beyond that show's just kind of boring.
Yeah. We only watched, like, a handful of episodes and just couldn't keep going.
Yeah, that's one time I was just like, yeah, I'm done. I don't really have any real interest in... Like, if it was more of, like, a weird paranormal slant, maybe I would keep watching it. But it's really just, like, about her and her, like, spoiled kids, and it's kind of just odd like that.
Yeah. Yeah, her kids, like, when they try to get her to convert from, like, recording cassette tapes to, like,
An MP3 recorder.
Yeah, MP3 recorder, like, messes up her world, and they're like, Ma, you're embarrassing us. And it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just terrible. Just fucking horrible.
But that's really all we watched on the streaming.
Yeah, as far as streaming goes.
Or I mean, show-wise.
Show-wise, yeah. Television show-wise, that's pretty much it. Yeah, we haven't been watching a ton of TV lately, actually. Which is a good thing.
I agree.
Get out, read a book, do something else. I've been listening to the audiobook. I've been listening to an audiobook as I, like, write articles or whatever for the new Stephen King novel, Dr. Sleep.
How is it?
It's pretty good so far. Sarah's kind of not a big Stephen King fan.
I don't know if I'm not a fan.
But you haven't really read a lot. I think you maybe do you feel like you have maybe preconceptions about it more than you actually know about it?
No, I grew up in a house where people read Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
I just never.
But you never actually read any of it, though.
I think when I was young,
you said
I
started
read Carrie and Cycle the Werewolf. I started.
Yeah, that's very that's early Stephen King stuff.
Yeah, but I was super young when I read it too. So I
understand.
And I just never got back to it. It wasn't that I have any like huge disdain for him. I just never.
I think you would like his short story stuff. I think that's always like a good like entry point because I was stuck on his short story stuff for a long time because I never really wanted to commit to his novels because they're so fucking long.
They are pretty big.
Like, the dude can't like write something that's under 800 pages, and it's kind of intimidating. And for whatever reason, like I used to travel a lot, so I would get audiobooks.
Yeah.
And I always loved getting the Stephen King ones, but I get the short stories so I could actually listen to the entire story, like, in the duration of, like, a trip, of a 10-hour drive.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, like, only hear half of it and then never get back to it or something like that. Like, right. So I always had that kind of weird paranoia, I guess. But, yeah, it's really good so far. I'm like, actually like a third of the way through. It's a sequel to The Shining, which I'm sure most people know, but, like... it's pretty entertaining. And there's one more thing that I've experienced that Sarah has not. I went to see the movie Escape Plan, starring Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
How was it?
Very mediocre. It's very, like, conventional.
Oh.
Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger was actually pretty good. He's starting to dust off the cobwebs. It's making me like happy. It'll make me more excited to see like what he like the next movie he makes, because he's kind of getting back to almost old Arnold in a weird way. He doesn't look so paunchy anymore. Looks like he's taking care. He's probably had a little work done.
Probably.
Like, because he did look surprising. He looked probably 10 years younger in this movie than he did in the last movie he made.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So, and he's in a lot better shape. And he actually gave, like, a performance in this movie, which was cool. Which you don't always get from Arnold Schwarzenegger, because here's a fun fact, kids. Arnold Schwarzenegger's never been a very good actor.
What?
No, he never has been. But he's, like, a charismatic persona, or personality, or whatever, and it just works.
Yeah.
When he's, like, lined up with the correct project, and
He's fantastic in Jingle All the Way. Come on.
yeah, come on, that's kind of the high mark in his career. I don't know, but some things just like
It's
he
time.
he had a good like run of like just lining up with good material, and it just worked.
Yeah.
You know, so and he's got a few movies coming out, and he's also supposedly going to be doing the final chapter in the Conan the Barbarian saga.
Oh, really?
King Conan. The old Conan.
Yeah.
And he's tired of being a king, and he wants to go back and reclaim his glory days. Which actually sounds amazing.
That does sound pretty sweet.
Because I am a big fan of, especially the original Conan the Barbarian. Not so much Conan the Destroyer. It's fine, but like Conan the Barbarian is pretty awesome. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, so looking forward to that. Escape Plan, don't go see it in the theater. It's definitely worth a rental, though. There's enough crazy, weird performances, like Jim Caviezel, a.k.a. Jesus Christ, because he played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ.
Oh, okay.
And he's also in a film called Frequency, if you ever saw that.
No, I didn't.
Dennis Quaid. I'm not going to get into that. But anyways, he gives actually a really good, like, sleazy bad guy performance, and there's a lot of fun. It's very contrived. Like, it's not, like, surprising. Spoiler alert, they escape.
No, they don't.
And, like, you know, the thing is, like, they're so beholden to, like, their old personas, like, in a weird way. Like, they won't allow, like, Sylvester Stallone will not allow himself, like, to be gracefully age. Like, and this was the first time, because, like, and he was when he first, like, made his first comeback, he acknowledged that he's an old guy.
Yeah.
Like, when Rocky Balboa is all about being old and not really being able to do it anymore. But he still has the fire inside. So it's like, you get points for trying. Like, type of, like, thing. And even the most recent Rambo movie. Like, John Rambo, or Rambo. Is it just called Rambo?
I think it's just called Rambo.
Yeah, it was supposed to be called John Rambo. Just like Rocky, or like Rocky Balboa. It's good like that. But even that, like, there was, like, just hints of, like, humanity, because he was an old guy, and he acknowledged his age.
And now he's not?
Now, not anymore. Not anymore.
He's like, I am 30 again.
Like, now it's all back into, like, saying quippy one-liners that are kind of they're not very funny, and, like, it's just like they were trying to relive that, like, that 1995, like, glory days, you know?
Glory days. Do 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 do.
In the young man's eyes, glory days. No, but like, yeah. So that it was funny, but like in a sad way. Because I was kind of like, it was like, just you could still make action movies, but you can just acknowledge that you're older and like be an older guy, and that's fine.
Still kick ass.
You can still kick ass. Like help the geriatric crowd out, you know. Like Clint Eastwood's doing that shit all by himself. Like. Admitting that he's old and
sitting on porches shooting at people.
It's awesome. Actually, Gran Torino was pretty great.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
But I'm just saying, he's an old man on a porch.
Mm-hmm.
Get off my goddamn lawn.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, it's worth a rental though when it comes out on Redbox or whatever. I would at least check it out. It's worth it just to see like kind of a fun Arnold Schwarzenegger performance. Like for that, if you grew up watching Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, like it's fun for that.
Yeah.
It is. He speaks in Austrian for a little bit in the movie.
Nice.
Yeah. I think it's the first time ever in an American film, or maybe any film, that he actually speaks in Austrian, his native tongue.
He's getting back to the motherland.
There you go. But yeah, it was entertaining. I was entertained.
Okay.
It just wasn't, like, awesome. Or I didn't expect it to be.
So I didn't miss a ton.
No, you didn't really miss much. But beyond that, so not really much has been uploaded to Netflix, so I don't know if there's really any recommendations I would make.
A band called Death.
Well, we recommended that last week.
Yeah.
And
We
this
watched
week
it.
we watched it, because we recommended it before we had watched it, because we were like, oh, that looks pretty interesting if you're into punk documentaries or rock
Just
docs.
music in general.
Music documentaries, you'd probably enjoy it. And so we finally watched it last night.
I really liked it.
Yes, it's about a proto-punk band, because subcategories for subcategories. Got to put everything into a label. But that's what I guess you would describe it as.
Yeah,
A proto-punk band. They were a punk band without knowing what punk was, or that they were a punk band. Because actually, they're more inspired by rock and roll.
Right, they were big Who fans.
That was a big turning point for them, yeah.
Yeah.
And their sound is very much Who-esque.
Yeah, and they remind me a lot. Actually, there was something in the documentary, there's an article, and then it cited in the article that they were similar to MC5, which is another Detroit-based garage band around that time.
Yeah.
So it's like they were more, they were into that sound.
Yeah, because I mean...
Like the Kingsmen with Louie Louie, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the pre-garage stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more of like a tragedy or a tragic tale of like artistic integrity and failure than really. It's not a success story. It's not. I mean,
No.
I think I understand this is a biased documentary. It's biased to them.
Yeah.
But this is a band that has been so obscure. They had no influence. They had no cultural impact at all. They didn't.
Yeah, until
recently.
recently.
Well, recently, yeah, there was some because they did actually record, and they were supposed to get a record deal, but they wouldn't change the name of the band, which was called Death. They wouldn't change the name.
Yeah,
so
it was with Clive Davis. Actually,
Davis,
he said didn't like the name.
and he took back the record deal.
It was a $20,000 record deal, which they were saying in the 70s that was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, they probably actually. I think if they had taken that deal, they probably would have been pretty successful.
Yeah.
Especially at the time and where music was going and what people were into and looking for.
Yeah.
They would have had a following. I mean, if bands they're not that much different than as far as what the possible influence they could have had than the Sex Pistols or the Ramones or the Clash. They probably could have had a similar influence had they compromised.
They would have influenced those bands because it was bands like The Who and all of those kind of bands that the Sex Pistols will give nods to.
Not the Ramones.
Not the Ramones.
The Ramones were all about Iggy Pop and the New York Dolls. And,
yeah, the New York, yeah.
And Tom Waits even a little bit. I mean, that's kind of... And the Beach Boys.
Yeah, the
Beatles.
Yeah, the surf... Because there's always this, talking about subgenres and divides. Even in the proto-punk, there was, kind of a lean towards more of the rock-heavy stuff with, The Who. And then the people who kind of also dug the, garage surf sound. And it was kind of the divide within proto-punk. So then they also further influenced the different divides within...
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, I mean, I think there is always one unifying band that I think comes up in pretty much every punk documentary I've ever seen. The Beatles.
Yeah.
The Beatles. You seem to be
Helter Skelter, one of the first punk songs ever written.
Yeah. But they don't even talk about Helter. They talk about the poppy, early Beatles stuff.
Yeah, because it's the attitude they presented.
I think it's the attitude, but it's the simplicity. It's the 2.5-minute songs. It's
Yeah.
there's an immediacy to the early Beatles that is it's not indulgent. It's very because
It's instant gratification.
yeah, in a weird way. Yeah. Because I mean, I think all bands, if they're around long enough, they get indulgent, and
Beatles did.
Beatles did, The Who did.
Mm-hmm. Tommy.
Pink Floyd was always indulgent, so I didn't care. But yeah, I mean so it's interesting to see, I guess, what could have been. I guess maybe.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot. It's a very short, story almost.
Yeah.
The story of death.
Because they were only around for a couple years.
Yeah, it was a few years.
There's 3 brothers.
And they call themselves Death up until 1980, but they actually hadn't played in 2 years at that point.
Yeah.
And his 3 brothers, which actually I think is probably the coolest part of that story, was like 3 brothers started this punk band, and
and they always had that mantra like back your brother up. So they were very supportive in each other's ideas, and
and I like that the main, the brainchild behind it, David Hackney. He put a lot of thought into the concept of what it was and what the band meant and what their like kind of mission statement was, and that's why he wouldn't change the name and he wouldn't accept the record deal. It's very like a lot of spiritual slant. They're from like they're preachers' kids, and they are full-on believers, and that's it's kind of like Christian punk music.
Yeah, because like they were also saying that if there wasn't a problem with the name, it was a problem with a lot of people slam them for being so spiritual in their music. Like, leave the religion behind, just give us
when they started
sound.
their second group, it was like the 4th something or other. I don't remember what the hell the second band they were. It was like a Christian rock band. And they were all in white and stuff. Yeah. The 4th Amendment or something, or I don't remember. I can't remember the name of the band. Yeah. That second band they were in, because it's not as memorable as Death. Or Lamb's Bread. Yeah. The Christian reggae band that the 2 other brothers started. Yeah. So it was always a big part of their music. I think like when they did Death, it was much more like hidden. It's much more like allusion to being about Christianity. You could have taken it like kind of any way you wanted. It was much more. It sounded like songs written by teenagers because it's much more immediate, much more reactionary to what was happening around them right then and there. Yeah. Like one of their most popular song, "Keep Knocking on the Door," was literally about people knocking on their door while they were practicing. Yeah. I mean, that's
about girls knocking on the door.
Yeah, while they were practicing their music because it was so loud and the whole neighborhood could hear it.
I thought that's awesome.
Yeah.
I like when they go back and visit their old neighborhood, and there's still some people from the community that live there, and there's this old lady, and they're talking about, like, when they were recording, and she goes, "Oh, Lord! David's so loud and crazy!" And just... Yeah. But they didn't seem mad about it. They were just kind of like,
like, they're probably just fondly looking back on, like, kids. They were probably pissed at the time.
Yeah.
But they're like, kids. Yeah. Like, that was... I don't know, it's cool to see stuff like that.
Yeah, and then you just kind of see what happens when there's a resurgence, like, in the early 2000s, where Death kind of gets discovered again by, like...
Gets rediscovered,
yeah.
Basically, because there was a dude, a musician from Detroit, that was around the same time Death was, that recorded this 45... double-sided, 1 song on each side.
Yeah, he did the artwork.
And he did the artwork for it, and he had a box of their things, and he just, like...
Because that's how they paid him.
Gave it to his friend at a record store, like, it's like 6-7 years ago. It wasn't even that long ago. And it became, like, this thing.
Yeah,
I guess, like, kind of record collectors that are into obscure, weird stuff that maybe only had, like, 1 printing or whatever knew about it. They were trying to find it. Somehow it got discovered, and then the funniest thing about it is that, like, one of the brothers has children.
He has 3 boys.
He has 3 boys, and they found out about Death through their friends, because they had moved out and they were like living in like San Francisco and stuff like that, and they found out about it from their friends who had gone to parties where they played weird music.
Yeah, and so they were like, the one son was talking about how his girl came like over and was just freaking out about this band, and then he heard it, and he was like, "That's my father's voice."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I cannot deny that's my father's voice," so he called his dad, and then was like, "Dad, I can't believe you didn't tell me about this."
Yeah.
Which I found funny that they didn't ever talk about it, really, like...
Yeah. I mean, because it was a footnote in their lives, you know what I mean? Like, it's something we did when we were in our late teens, early 20s, and then we moved on, and we've done other projects since. Like, it was just something they did at the time, like, and nothing happened with it.
Yeah, but then because of those kids, they got back out there and they started touring. And those kids performed under their uncle's pseudonym, Rough Francis.
Rough Francis, yeah. It was their uncle David, the brainchild behind Death, passed away, I think in the, 2000 or something like that.
99, I think.
99 or 2000 of alcohol, or cancer.
Lung cancer.
And he had been like a kind of a bum alcoholic for a while. Like, it kind of, I think, like, the not being able to find success, whatever, haunted him, and probably obviously he
Took its toll.
He was depressed about it, and he just never got out of it. The funk, the rut of like not being able to achieve what he felt like he could have.
Yeah. I don't know. It was really good.
Yeah, and it's kind of a well constructed documentary. Like the first half is the story of death, and the second half is the rediscovery of death. That's the way it's kind of broken up.
Some really cool, like, inside pictures and stuff, too. I mean, obviously, because they're talking to the family and stuff, but it was pretty cool to see, like, some of the behind-the-scenes pictures and the stories about how they kept all the tapes and, like, the master recordings and stuff, you know.
Yeah. That was... Which is much to that, the one that passed away, David, like, his credit. Like, he kept those masters, and he kept them in good shape, and he gave them to his brothers before he died, said, hey, you gotta make sure... You keep these because people will come looking for them someday, and well, lo and behold, somebody did.
Psychic.
Somebody did, man.
Yeah, and so then they got to tour as Death for the first time.
For the first time ever.
Yeah.
It must have been really short sets.
Yeah, 6 songs.
Well, I guess they were playing. Well, it said at the end of the documentary they had started writing new music as Death, so. I don't know. I didn't check it out, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I heard it, and I liked it.
Yeah.
I wasn't floored.
I thought they were great.
I did. I think they were great, too. But, like, the problem is that, like, I appreciate it for the, like, historical document that it is, pretty much. But it's, like, Bad Brains did it better.
Why? Because they're black?
Because they're black. Just as, a point of comparison, Bad Brains is actually pretty similar to them.
Yeah.
A lot of their early stuff, because they're more melodic, they sing, and it's not just screaming and shit, and like...
well, it's like I was saying, some of it remind me of the Gories, too, which is another Detroit-based, they're kind of like a surf rock band.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool, because, and that's the thing about that band, is, I really do think if they had changed the name, and... Which, hey, kudos for them for his integrity or whatever. If he felt like that was what he wanted... The
message, yeah.
That was the message, that was the concept... He stuck to his guns. And probably if his brothers had actually been more supportive, they could have found somebody else to put them out. Or they tried harder.
Yeah.
Honestly. Because they kind of... After that happened, it seems like they pretty much just gave up. The other two brothers gave up.
And they were kind of upset.
They were upset, and they gave up.
Because, like they said, publicly we support... it sucked, but we supported his decision to keep the band. Always back your brother up. But at home, there were fights about it.
Of course there would be. Especially like when you're like poor kids from Detroit, some poor black guys from Detroit, and you're offered a record deal.
Yeah.
Predicated on you just changed the name.
Yeah,
which is a name they did not care about. It was David is the only one who cared about that name.
Yeah.
Or the concept. Really. They almost worked in the capacity of, it seemed like hired hands. Like hired musicians. In a weird way.
Yeah. Because he was more so the running force of that group.
Yeah. Well, he was the one that kept it going and, like, really, really pushed it, I guess.
Yeah.
Pushed the practices and the playing shows and stuff. That's something that it kind of, like, doesn't, like, even talk about at all, like, whether they have, like, did they have a following? Were they, like, a neighborhood thing? Or... I don't think they were. I think they just practiced and then somehow like, oh, we're going to go try to get a record deal. And then they kind of went that way and then it just ended.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like they played a lot of clubs and stuff.
No. Might have played a few.
I'm sure they played a few, yeah. But it doesn't sound like they had much of even a life in Detroit.
Yeah. They might have, it just the movie wasn't very good at showing what that was like, I guess.
And then they had like kind of some weird... interview people like during the like rediscovery of death portion, like Elijah Wood and Kid Rock, and they're only in it for maybe like 15 seconds a piece.
Jello Biafra.
Yeah, well, he was in it because he's a big record collector.
I know, and a Dead Kennedys. Come on.
Yeah, but like they're only in it for a few seconds. Like Kid Rock, I feel like was in it just because he was from Detroit.
Yeah,
and he's like, whoa, I didn't know about these guys, and then cut. And then
he was in the beginning a little bit, too.
For a second.
Henry Rollins,
no punk documentary is complete, like I told you, without Henry Rollins. Henry Rollins knows everything about punk music. He probably is a very informed like person about the history.
But usually when he talks, in my head, I'm like, shut up, Henry
Oh,
Rollins. I'm not a big Henry Rollins person.
I'm not a big, like, music-wise, never really cared for Henry
His
Rollins.
poetry is fantastic.
I've never read his poetry.
It's fucking terrible.
Never read his poetry. I used to really like his IFC show, because he would have, like, really great acts on and stuff, and, like, they used to have, like Frank Black, and BRMC, and Sonic Youth, and, like, the Breeders, and like Tom Waits, and like he would have cool guests on, so like I always would tune in. I learned a lot about like a lot of cool like obscure bands because of him. Yeah, so he's never bothered me, but I was never really a big Black Flag fan, so I don't have that connection to like that stuff. Like I don't like hold it against.
What
him.
about Government Issue? His first band with on Discord Records. It's a great band.
I never heard it. I don't think I've ever heard it.
Terrible.
Probably.
No.
I mean, objectively, most of that stuff is pretty terrible, Sarah. I mean, seriously, if you think about it, a lot of that stuff that came out of that early 80s, like mid-80s, like when those bands were first starting out, fucking horrible.
No. Not all of them.
Yes.
No. This is something we'll never agree on.
We've talked about it before.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it again. I just like I appreciate it for what it is, but I have a disconnect because of the way that I consume music, I guess, or like consume art and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's based like it's if I get a sense of like some type of sincerity or something I can connect with, I have to connect with it in some way, and I can't really connect with like the ideologies of 18-year-olds. Because they're very loudly outspoken about politics and social issues and stuff like that. Well, they really have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. They don't. They have no real like life experience with it or anything.
The Clash did.
The Clash did. The Clash were also older.
Yeah, they were college kids.
They were college
when they
kids.
Formed.
But they weren't overly political when they first started either.
White Riot.
Oh, White Riot, but that's reactionary to what was going on, like, right there. They were involved in that stuff. I mean, like, at least they have some experience with it. Like,
A lot of the DC bands, I feel, do have some right to talk about it, because they live in a town that they're constantly surrounded by politics.
to a degree.
And they have... Yeah, you know, when you grow up in DC, it's like... very weird area of very wealthy people surrounding these, like, kind of down and out people. So you have to deal with a lot of class struggle.
Yeah.
So I think they can speak to...
And that's fine, but when they start, like, writing songs about, like, Reaganomics and policy, they did. And gun control, and, like... I just don't, like, see... I feel like this people have no idea what they're very uninformed. Because they keep themselves in a club... but they don't, like, actually research, or they're just constantly preaching to a choir. I don't feel there's any growth there. Like, you got, like, Fugazi.
Oh, we're not getting into Fugazi, are we?
That guy...
Which one?
never fucking changed.
Ian MacKaye?
Ian MacKaye has not changed since he was 17.
I think he did.
Not political. Not, like, his
Have you ever heard the
ideology.
Evens?
Probably.
It's him and a girl, so it's a guitar and drums.
Oh, yeah, I've heard the Evens.
It's different than...
Shit.
Oh my god.
I'm not a big Fugazi fan. I'm not like...
Guy Picciotto's fantastic. The other singer.
Sure. I don't know, I watched really long... I was, like, tried to get into them, like, when I was younger.
Yeah.
And when I was, like, 21... I would watch, like, this 2-3 hour documentary about them, like, recording an album and touring.
Yeah.
And the documentary turned me off so hard that I don't
Ian
know
MacKaye-
if I'll
Ian
ever
MacKaye
go
is-
back and, like, give them a chance. Because I know where that music comes from now. And that's, like, I don't like it. Like, I don't like the person and the reason why he does the things he does.
I will give them credit, though, for what they did in DC to make that scene, like, kind of survive, and, like... They started their own record label,
Yeah, no,
and
as
they
far
were
as,
very
like,
self-sufficient,
young
like, do it
entrepreneurs,
yourself.
That's awesome. No.
DIY.
I agree. Like, I think that's awesome.
And the fact that, like, they keep all their shows under $5, so anyone, and they're all ages, so anyone can come hear their music.
They have a cool philosophy about that kind of stuff. I agree with that stuff. Yeah, most definitely. Because they don't feel like it should be exclusionary or, like, unattainable to people or whatever. That's not the point of creating art and making music and playing shows, is not to let a select group of people that can afford to see you come see you.
Right.
Because most of your fans are going to be really young, poor people, like, especially like with like punk-oriented things and stuff like that. So let them see you.
Yeah.
And I like that. I do like that, and that's kind of what I was talking about when I was talking about Death, and like kind of they didn't have that entrepreneurial spirit. They were kind of lazy about it.
Yeah.
Like if they had really like pushed that, I think they could have done the same thing. They could have printed their own shit, and they could have tried to sell it at shows and get club gigs.
Well, it didn't help either that they gave that artist guy, they paid him with records, but he never distributed them, because he even admitted himself he got lazy.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah.
So that didn't do them too many favors either.
No, it didn't. But yeah, I enjoyed the documentary.
I did too.
Not the best one I've ever seen. If I were to like what would be like your perfect rock documentary?
Probably West Way to the World.
You think that's the best one you've ever seen?
Yeah. I mean, The Clash is my favorite band, but I think that's very well done. Or even the Futures Unwritten, the Joe Strummer one. I really like how they did that, where it's a lot of his friends telling his story, and they used even the friends from his different periods of time in life to progressively show the life of Joe Strummer. Mm-hmm. And at the end, they're all kind of just hanging out and remembering about Joe around a campfire and singing songs and stuff. I think that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And then he talked to his family and stuff. I think that was really well done. So one of those two, probably. I mean, that's partially biased, but...
Yeah, I know, because you like The Clash. I think, like, my favorite rock documentary, where it's, like, say if it was on a 1 to 10 scale, it would be, like, my 10. Mm-hmm. That I would judge other rock documentaries
based on?
Against. Mm-hmm. I want to say it might be Dig.
Dig's really good.
Because I don't really particularly care for either of those bands.
Oh, Brian Jonestown Massacre's okay.
They're like 20-80. 20% good, 80%
I know.
shit. Again, I know, because I've listened to every fucking thing they've ever put out. And we did for like a good year, Paul and I.
Yeah. Hi, Paul.
But, because I think it's very honest, and I think you're actually getting a very personal look at those lives, and like they were very, because they didn't know any better, like they didn't have that awareness, like somebody's making a documentary about us, because it was really just like one of their friends with a camera that was like lived like a bum and followed them around.
Yeah.
There was not really like they weren't necessarily coming at it from the angle of like we're filmmakers and you're our subjects, and so there's like this unfiltered nature about that documentary and the things that they would do, the things that would happen, and the things they got on camera.
No Distance. Have you seen No Distance Left to Run, the Blur documentary?
No, I never
That's a
have.
really good one.
Yeah. You know what's a documentary that made me also hate another band?
What?
The Wilco one.
Wilco I don't like.
Jeff Tweedy? Is that his
Jeff
name?
Tweedy, yeah.
Yeah, guy's a
I'm
ass.
the man who loves you.
I never really liked Wilco all that much, and I never got like Hotel Foxtrot, like
Hotel Yankee Foxtrot.
Yeah, people like feel
Love
like that's
that
some
album.
kind of like a revelation.
Yeah.
No.
I was subjected to listening to them for a while. People I was around loved Wilco, and I was bored.
Yeah. I also really like the Flaming Lips documentary too.
Yeah, that was really good, because you feel like you just get to know them. They're just guys.
Yeah, that's the most shocking thing about that documentary is how normal most of them, like how down to earth.
Did you hear what happened recently on Twitter with them?
No.
For a minute, they tweeted that they'd broken up. This was like yesterday or something.
Oh, really?
And then it got deleted, and then it was like, that last message was a little premature, and then some like artwork.
Really?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Ruh-roh.
Yeah, I was reading about that today, and I was like, oh no. Because the article title was like, did the Flaming Lips break up, ? And I was like, no.
It's probably just more of the Imaginarium of Wayne Coyne.
Yeah.
Just fucking with everybody. Because I think they would do something weird like that.
Yeah.
Like, break up and then just release an album, like, 6 months later.
Yeah, they'd be like, oh, hey, guys.
Like, oh, those are just words, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, I really do like the Flaming Lips a lot, and I like them, like, philosophically. I like why they do things and the types of people they are.
Yeah. And that documentary shows you that a lot. Like,
yeah.
My favorite was when Wayne Cohn's talking about working at Long John Silver, and then he goes into the, it's like a Chinese place now.
Yeah, and he's having the little Chinese kids help him reenact it.
When he was
when
he was held up by, at gunpoint, and he's like, "Now you get on the floor." I think that was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Now you pretend you're at a cash register.
It's kind of like one of those heartwarming documentaries.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, it's real nice, and everything ends up in a positive light, and the guy, the awesome, amazing, co-writer of most of their songs, what's his name?
I don't remember.
Can't remember.
Oh my god.
That's not good. Having a brain fart, everybody. This happens when you get old. But yeah, I don't know. He kicks his drug habit.
Yeah, cleans
he's
himself
healthy,
up.
gets married.
To a girl that stuck with him through a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah, 15 years or whatever. That's another impressive thing. Wayne Coyne has been with the same girl since 1992. She's the girl from the
all the videos.
All the videos. Yeah.
I think that's pretty sweet.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, so I'd recommend watching it. It's on Netflix streaming. Go for it.
Do it.
Go for it. If anything, it'll inspire you to watch other rock documentaries that are actually better. But
it was on the same par as the what am I thinking of? Now I'm having a brain fart. God damn it. The Fishbone documentary.
Oh yeah.
The one that we started.
I agree.
Yeah, because I saw that at during Artscape in Baltimore. They show Maryland Film Festival films and small release films at all these different bars and venues. And my friend Brian and I went and saw that documentary at this place called the Wind Up Space, and we were really excited. It was a good documentary, but it wasn't stellar.
No, and it's kind of hard, and with especially with a band like Death, there's a finite story there.
Yeah.
They didn't continue. There's no larger journey or arc, so it's the band fizzled out. So there's only so much you can really do.
Right.
As far as telling their story, because there's only so much of it to tell. And that just makes it kind of feels slight, in a way. But not like bad. I definitely enjoyed it, and I just because I like that kind of stuff, and I like learning about that kind of stuff, and like the history of like especially punk music and things like that. Like I find the history of punk music much more interesting than most of the punk music that came out of it. I do. That's that's how I am. I'm sorry.
Who are you apologizing to?
But yeah, I'd say give it a watch.
And I'll say it again. Give it a watch.
Hey now, that's two. That's two give it a watches. Two give it a watches from Shaun and Sarah. But we did actually watch another movie. The last one. This is available now on video on demand. Escape from Tomorrow. The guerrilla film that was made secretly in the parks of Disneyland and Disney World, actually.
Oh,
Both
really?
of them. Yeah. And it was done over, I think, 2 years.
Okay.
I did a little looking up on it after we watched it.
Yeah, because they kept saying Disney World, in the movie.
In the movie, yeah. And I think they did just parts of it in Disneyland as well.
Because they didn't want to get caught.
I guess. I don't know. It's how would you describe it, Sarah? Did you like the film, Sarah?
No.
No, me neither.
It was a wet fart.
Yeah. Most impressive thing, the only interesting thing at all is that they filmed it in Disneyland, or in Disney World.
Yeah.
Without getting caught.
It kind of, unravels at the end and kind of is
Which I understand. I guess they're saying this dude's going crazy. It's this is what the movie does. It dabbles in themes and never explores them.
Yeah.
So, because they just think, it's they purport depth of something just because they bring it up.
Yeah.
And then completely ignore it for huge sections of the film to hint at it again, but never really do anything with it. I thought, this was going to be, kind of a way that, this corporatization of, family and love and values and happiness and, the way that Disney is kind of oddly sexualized.
Yeah.
Was going to be, kind of the theme, the subtext. It's not.
No.
It's
For
not.
a minute it is.
It is at times. Vaguely.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't really... It's...
What did we say last night? It's watching
a fucking an art or student film.
Yeah, it's like a student art film.
Yeah. That's what it felt.
It's like watching one of Jim Morrison's
complete
films.
in black and white, and like everything, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think the performance of the guy who played the father was pretty good. He was good.
He, as I explained him, he looks like Ken Marino, but sounds like Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, very true. And it's like really immature. Like, I felt like it's just like a very immature movie. It even has like a lot of immature jokes and humor, and like a lot of like just like boob shots to be like funny,
or like thong shots.
Yeah.
Lots
and
of butts.
like pooping on a toilet, like aggressively pooping, like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was actually, when that started, I remember looking at you being like, where did this come from? Like,
got the cat flu, man. Because they brought it up one time. They're paying it off.
Yeah, like, no, they bring it up a couple times because people are like coughing all over the park and stuff, and then
they bring it up a couple times?
Yeah, if you look in the background, there's a lot of people coughing and like being sick.
That. Yeah.
And then they drop it, and then they drop it. And then, like, the nurse, when the little girl cuts her knee...
Tells you, you gotta watch out for that cat flu.
And you're like...
You could be a carrier and not even know it. You could be a host.
And then
you
he
spread it. No, he gets it from the Parisian girl. When she spits on him.
Oh, that's right.
They're having some weird across-the-park tryst.
And then he refuses it.
And then he refuses it, and she...
And
like, all... like
she looked like she was 14.
Like, yeah, and I think that was part of the point.
Yeah.
Like, because when you're in that... I think because what they're saying, the way that Disney like sexualizes the princesses, and it's kind of like weirdly sexual and misogynistic, and that like you would just start doing that to children yourself, like, I guess maybe. And because it doesn't know, like, it has no fucking like cohesive narrative as far as subtextual narrative. It's just all over the place.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this is about a guy who just lost his job, and he's stressed out because it's his last day of vacation, and he's going crazy. And he's, like, all of his, like, these anxieties he has. Like, that's what the title is about. Like, his anxiety is about having to face the next day. So it's Escape from Tomorrow. Like,
yeah, it was just a mess.
I mean, I suppose you could probably watch it again and pull some more stuff out of it, but I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to watch that movie again.
I was bored.
Yeah, I wouldn't even watch that with fucking commentary. I do not care what that asshole has to say.
Oh, my God.
No, I'm saying it now. I don't know. It's like a real... I can't even say it's a missed opportunity, because obviously what their goals were not what I... And I understand that's my own baggage, too. Like, my perception of what you should have done.
Yeah.
It's just not fair at all. But it's like... You could have made something at least slightly interesting.
No.
And the whole thing about, like... Because I was reading about it, and, like, the thing about why they get the cat flu thing... It's just because of Mickey Mouse.
What?
Because Mickey Mouse.
Because he's a mouse.
So you get cat flu.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Mickey Mouse is trying to kill you or something, I guess, maybe. I don't know.
Ho-ho.
And he makes references to things in the park, like a few times, but in a sexual way. Throughout the parks, there is things called secret Mickeys.
Yeah.
The secret Mickey heads or whatever that you can find.
Yeah.
And they bring it up a few times, like when he's having sex with that woman in the hotel room. She said, "Oh, you found my secret Mickey." And right before that, when she's wearing this long piece of jewelry, but it has like a big jewel that somehow entrances him or whatever. And the way it's framed is that it's framed like right beneath her breasts, and she's got like a cleavage line, so it forms like a Mickey head.
Oh, that's so
fucking
retarded.
So like 15-year-old depth like shit. You know what I mean?
Boobs.
Like boobs and like, oh, look what we're trying to say here, man. We've like made Mickey out of sexual organs. Like,
it's a punk rock movie, Sean.
it's super punk rock. I guess you could say it's punk rock the way it's made. I'll give them that. Like,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's very interesting. That's why I watched it on the gimmick. And that's all it was, I guess. So,
Yeah.
shame on me.
Yeah, thank you.
You got me, Escape from Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Fool me once.
Shame on me.
Shame on you. Fool me twice.
Oh, whoops.
That's why I'll never watch you again, you son of a bitch.
Oh my god.
You son of a bitch.
Oh my god.
No, I don't know. Like,
I wouldn't even recommend it.
No, I wouldn't recommend it either, but it's just like, I'm trying to, like, think, like, was it worth... I feel like I totally wasted my time?
I do.
I wouldn't say that. Like, because I don't think anything's really truly a waste of time. You can take something.
Wow, you're getting deep.
You can learn something from everything. Sometimes it's really important to watch things that are failures to understand why, like, good things are good.
Yeah.
I mean, because even, like, say, watching something like Long Island Medium, there's something, because it actually will make you think about something in a different way. Even though that's not the intention of the show, but that's just the effect it has on, like, me. It'll make me think about things in different ways. And I guess Escape from Tomorrow, not really. Actually doesn't really give me much to think about, because it's so, I don't know, immaturely done, and the symbolism is weak and obvious, and it doesn't really have anything to say. I mean, it does. I know it does. Like, there's some overall arcing message that, like, about, I guess, middle age and the power of your imagination.
I feel like you're scratching at everything to get just those couple words.
Well, because that's what it's a hodgepodge. It's just like a little bit of all these things they touch on, but never.
A potpourri of themes.
Yes, and they never like cohesively do anything with any of them. So there's no like through line really.
Yeah.
Other than the family unit and like his kid's an asshole and doesn't like him, but you don't really know why. Other than like maybe because the kid like. Maybe it's implied that maybe the father is obviously has more affinity for his daughter.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was, and it felt like it was fucking like 3 hours long. It was really like only like 90 minutes or so. But
whoa,
it
really?
felt like forever.
It did.
I was like, oh my god. It's like. I don't know, and I don't mind, like, weird, obscure, obtuse movies, either. Like, I really like the movie Eraserhead.
Yeah.
And it kind of has, like, a similar, almost Eraserhead kind of pace.
Yeah.
But at least Eraserhead feels like there's something interesting going on that, like, compels me to want to keep watching it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, we finished it to finish it, but I don't know if I...
Yeah. I'd say save your $7, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I don't know.
You seem really upset by this.
I am. This movie just, like, befuddles me. And I like the fact the reaction, like, Disney has taken is basically just to completely ignore it because they are smart enough to know that if they do anything, it'll actually just garner this movie more press. Because I'm sure they've seen it.
Oh, yeah, I'm
I
sure.
guarantee you they saw it a while ago. Because it was at Sundance, and when it was at Sundance, nobody thought it would be released.
Yeah.
Because they didn't think they were going to get, like, the permissions. At least in its, like, intended state, right? Because it full-blown uses Mickey and Mickey Mouse and the princesses and, like...
They bleep out the name Walt Disney?
No,
or Disney.
It's Disney. They refer to Walt Disney as the Big W.
Yeah.
They also black out Neosporin and call it Geosporin.
Yeah.
In a fucking retarded scene that he uses it to... I'm like, you know, it's... There are things about that movie that I guess are consistent. Like, it's consistently trying to ape the style of like an old Disney movie from the 60s. In terms of like... But not really. No, but
Let me take that back.
In terms of like title cards and music and...
Yeah.
The whimsical like
Intermission.
stuff. Intermission. There is a few like things where they had control where they would shoot on very obviously on a green screen.
Yeah, it was pretty
they
bad.
They were shooting it like a old like movie. Where it's like master shot, close up, master shot. Like so, it was like they did attempt to do some type of stylistic flourishes and stuff to like kind of make it look like an old Disney movie, old live action Disney movie, but. Ends up being just dumb.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Don't be sorry. You're saying...
Sorry, America. Sorry, America. It's not worth your time.
Nope.
Escape from Tomorrow. Fuck, just escape from right now so I don't have to watch this movie anymore. You know what I'm saying? Jokes. I don't know. Did you love it?
I loved it.
Did you love it?
Oh, I loved it.
Did you love it?
No, I hated it.
Escape from Tomorrow! Right into your butt. That's an example of some of the humor in Escape from Tomorrow.
Actually, yes.
I don't know. It's dumb. And spoiler: the father dies at the end. with a big smile on his face because his son, he has the cat flu, and he's coughing up fur balls into the toilet.
After pooping into the toilet.
After having a massive shit. Just loud and proud. Poop. And then his son comes in and sees him, and he's like, son, I need some help. You need to get help.
He's like bleeding
And
everywhere.
he's bleeding out of all of his orifice eyes. And, and the son shuts the door and just goes back to bed. Next morning they wake up, they find his body in there with a big grin on his face.
He's grinning like a Cheshire cat.
Is that what the point is? Do you think? Actually, probably. You're probably right. Shit. Good for you. Good one, Sarah.
Yeah, I have them sometimes.
Because we were like, oh, the happiest place on earth, and now I'll be happy forever. And
No.
isn't that kind of what we said last night?
Yeah, well, I was, like, kind of poking at the fact that that's Disney's tagline is, like, the happiest place on earth.
I think that's the point of having, like, a family drama set in Disney.
Yeah.
It's potentially interesting.
But maybe he's grinning because he's like it's like a Cheshire grin.
You're probably right, because I don't think they'd be smart enough to do what we thought.
Yeah.
I think it's so fucking direct. It's the cat flu, and he's coughing up cat hairballs, and Disney Cheshire cat, boom, done. Cut and print.
Send that one to the presses.
Yeah. This is going to be the greatest movie ever. Imagine spending 2 years of your life on that movie. God.
It's terrible,
All the things you could have done in that 2 years. Other movies you could have made.
Yeah.
You didn't have to sneak into Disney parks to do. Well, that's the thing. That's the most egregious part of it. The fact that it's not Disney is kind of superfluous. Kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because they don't use enough of it, like, to make any point
Right.
with it. That's why I thought it was going to be about, like, corporatism and, like, the what is it? The, like, commercialization of family and love and happiness and...
You shot too high, man.
I did! God damn it. God damn it. Like, all the cool stuff you could have done, like, if it was more, like, straightforward, just, like, this is a man's descent into, like, anxiety-fueled madness.
Right.
And everything at Disney just becomes, like, supposed to be this place of happiness and coming together with your family and having a good time just turns into the absolute fucking nightmare. That would have worked, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what it does. It's trying to do. Just can't accomplish it.
Right. It didn't do much for me.
Yeah. It's just whatever.
Whatever, man.
I don't get it. Okay, well, that's definitely not a recommend. Do not rent that movie.
2 not recommends.
And you could take that straight to the bank, folks.
Yep. You're welcome for your $7.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. I'm Shaun.
I'm Sarah.
And thank you for listening to My Future Husband Facebook, episode 14. Ramble on, Rambler. Goodbye.